So I'm at a FedEx in Florida, turning over all of Mayor Giuliani's watches and ring as required by a court order in the case involving 2 women election workers in Georgia. This right here, folks, this is the accumulation of 60 years of hard work. Many of these watches hold great sentimental value, and he's being forced to turn all these over under court order. Again, the accumulation of 60 years of hard work, much of it dedicated public service, helping others, right? As mayor of New York City, as U.S. Attorney to the Southern District of New York, as a Deputy Attorney General, as a person who comforted not just the nation, but the whole world following September 11th. This man attended hundreds of funerals for firefighters, police officers, first responders, and victims that day. This is a man who demonstrated courage by running towards the flames. And now he's being forced to turn all this over under court order in an absolute bastardization of our justice system. I have to document this. What's happening is wrong, it's shameful, and we must restore the integrity of the U.S. justice system.
There's Rudy Giuliani's spokesperson documenting his attempt to pay back his debt for defaming those 2 Georgia election workers that he lied on, leading to MAGA ruining their lives. His dusty-ass watches might be worth something, but I don't think they'll make up the $148 million that he owes them. So he'll have to find more things to complain about turning over.
26 luxury watches, a $5 million apartment, a Mercedes convertible once owned by Lauren Bacall. Just some of the riches that Rudy Giuliani is supposed to turn over to those election workers he so shamelessly slandered. The court order to give up those goods was part of that $148 million defamation lawsuit where he falsely accused Georgia election workers Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman of ballot fraud, while also pushing Trump's lies about election fraud during the 2020 campaign.
An attorney for Freeman and Moss, Kira, said that Rudy Giuliani has been doing nothing but game playing. There's a hearing ongoing now. Freeman and Moss say there was a clear order that Giuliani is violating it by not turning the items over, and they've suggested that he should be held in contempt. This is not a contempt hearing. And Giuliani's attorney says, well, some of it's in a storage unit, some of it they don't have any control over. I've overheard Giuliani whispering that he doesn't know where some of the sports memorabilia is. The hearing's almost farcical, Kira, because clearly he owes all of this stuff to Freeman and Moss after defaming them during the 2020 election, and he just hasn't complied yet.
Giuliani attempted to use these women's lives as a catalyst to support Trump's stolen election claims, with no regard for the harassment and threats that they'd receive. And now that he's facing the consequences, he thinks it's unfair.
Rudy, what's your current situation? You talk about the deep state coming after somebody. They are trying to destroy one of the greatest living Americans, Rudy Giuliani, before our eyes.
Well, right now, based on a judgment that is easily reversed, the $145 million judgment to two women where I'm not able to use the tape recordings or video recordings that support the truth of everything I said. On Monday, they're going to show up and they're going to want to take all of the memorabilia I have from September 11th. I mean, that's like taking my heart away. They want to take away. I don't have it right now. I couldn't give you a check. All my checking accounts are frozen. I can't buy food. All my credit cards are frozen. I'm entitled under the law to keep one car of less than $5,000. The judge has denied me that. I'm allowed to keep my furniture. The judge has denied me that. This is totally punitive. I mean, there's no way an ordinary person would be treated this way. The exceptions made are for humanitarian purposes, but I'm less than human.
Okay, pause for a second. Why does this spokesperson think that posting a video of him having to ship off Rudy's old watches and rings in a FedEx package will garner any sympathy? Why does Giuliani think that complaining about his memorabilia being handed over is something we should care about? These guys are the kinds of guys that spit on regular Americans suffering when they lose everything, when innocent people are put to death and are murdered by the state on death row with overwhelming evidence confirming their innocence. They laugh when police beat and murder folks in the streets, only to respond with a promise to give them more immunity and implement more policies that encourage them to do it again. So what happens to those people's family possessions and heirlooms? They literally treat regular citizens that don't have any power as less than human. How much of a shit does Rudy Giuliani give about what he did to Rudy Freeman's life?
I want people to understand this. Money will never solve all of my problems. I can never move back into the house that I called home. I will always have to be careful about where I go and who I choose to share my name with. I miss my home, I miss my neighbors, and I miss my name. I've heard some of you. Don't be sad for me. Don't waste your time being angry at those who did this to me and my daughter. We are more than conquerors. Pray for us as we continue to fight the good fight of faith. My friends say that God knew who to give this assignment to, because if it had been them, they wouldn't have been able to go through this. God chose me to go through this because he knows that I would tell everyone whose path I cross about Jesus. I'm strong and my faith shall never waver. If you remember one thing I say today, remember this. Faith is what carried us through the most difficult years of my life. And faith will carry you through hardships that you face in life.
So I wonder why these guys are so eager to go after a devout Christian like Rudy Freeman. I keep hearing how they worry that Christians are under attack in America and all over the world. So what is it about her and her daughter that made them abandon all their reverence for God and attempt to destroy their lives? There's a good chance that they worship Donald Trump and his election lies over Jesus. Here he is complaining some more, though.
There's more people than when I was elected mayor.
Mr. Giuliani, are you going to turn over? How are you?
I'm going to turn over what I'm supposed to turn over when they figure out what that is.
Do you regret about defaming Rudy Freeman and Shane Moss?
No! I did not. First of all, I didn't defame him. I did not defame him. That's on appeal, my friend. Okay. So, may I just make a couple of comments?
Mr. Can I talk?
Let's keep some perspective. That's everything that's been ordered. Everything that's been ordered today will,
Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to say about why your belongings were not inside your apartment?
They were. My apartment was filled with belongings, and they just lied.
Are you saying that all of your valuables were there?
All the things that were appropriate were there. And the apartment was pretty full with things. So they're lying completely. Every room had furniture in it.
What about the Mercedes?
Let's keep walking, guys. Watch yourselves.
The Mercedes has never been in New York. It's always been in Florida. And it's there right now.
Sorry. I'm trying to get out of the way.
Every bit of property that they want is available if they're entitled to it. Now, the law says they're not entitled to a lot of it. For example, they want my grandfather's watch that's 150 years old. That's a bit of an heirloom. Usually you don't get those unless you're involved in a political persecution. In fact, having me here today is like a political persecution. The judge knew I couldn't come today. He's also scheduled the trial for right at the time of Donald Trump's inauguration. Gee, I wonder why he did that.
He can't control himself regarding basic questions in front of the media without his attorney having to jump in and save him. And he keeps talking about the ruling as if it shouldn't apply to him because he's Rudy Giuliani. And like the rest of Trump's henchmen, he thinks playing the political persecution card will work for him as well as it's worked for Donald. And actually, speaking of attorneys, they must have realized that his wild outbursts and open calls of conspiracy were too much for them to work effectively under. So they bailed on his ass. So are they now part of the conspiracy to take him down and include in the persecution of everything MAGA? The exact reason for the request was redacted in a court filing late Wednesday, but the filing suggested Giuliani, who represented Donald Trump in his challenges in the 2020 election, was being an unreasonably difficult client. Giuliani attorney Ken Caruso and co-counsel David Lapkowski cited 3 provisions of the Code of Professional Conduct allowing them to withdraw. When the client insists upon taking action with which the lawyer has a fundamental disagreement, The client insists upon presenting a claim or defense that is not warranted under existing law and cannot be supported by good faith argument. Or the client fails to cooperate in the representation or otherwise renders the representation unreasonably difficult for the lawyer. Why doesn't Daddy Trump just stand by the loyalty of his guy that's sacrificing everything, his family heirlooms and his grandfather's watch, and pony up that $148 million? Why hasn't Daddy Trump paid Rudy Giuliani the $2 million that he says he owes him for legal fees? Seems like this loyalty thing continues to work in only one direction when it comes to their father figure.
Have you been in touch with Mr. Trump in the last 2 days? And if so, can you tell us what you discussed?
Well, I have been in touch with him, but I won't tell you what I discussed.
Would you work for the administration?
Well, that's a discussion between me and the president-elect. And the fact is, of course I would, if that's what he wanted. I'm not offering myself for anything, but I would. You know I'm very dedicated to him.
Maybe those undisclosed meetings do involve Rudy offering himself up for anything Trump wants. But just in case he continues to screw him over in public, he probably doesn't want to put it out there. So if anything else, though, the former mayor turned political hitman can start leaning into his side gigs to put together the rest of that cash that his grandfather's watches just don't cover.
You all know I stand by the truth. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy.